Okay, hello everyone. Hello everyone. Welcome to another Shecluded Business Network webinar. My name is Nkechi. If you're new to the network, let me use this opportunity to formally welcome you. The Shecluded Business Network is a community of incredible women journeying together to financial wellness, business growth, and impact. So every month we hold webinars and workshops geared towards enabling us build successful businesses and global relevance. After this event, please introduce yourself on the Telegram group and ensure you add links to your social media pages so that we can learn more about you. Today we'll be reviewing the Mandela Washington Fellowship application, as you know, and with me today are Dr. Kedei and Miss Amina Abubakar. Thank you so much, ladies, for taking time out of your very busy schedule to join us today. I really appreciate it. I'm sure everyone is happy about that, is excited about that. So let's jump right in. Yeah. Miss Amina, before we begin, would you please quickly introduce yourself?
Yeah. So good morning to Nkechi and everyone else on this group. I'm excited to be here. It's nice to see you this morning. My name is Amina Abubakar. I am a Nigerian, all over Nigeria, and I am an African as well, all over Africa. So in summary, I belong to everybody and I belong to nobody. I am just African. So that's, I think, well, I don't know if I am introducing myself, but one of the reasons why I'm excited here is I think the Mandela Fellowship is a really awesome platform to feel African. And that is why I'm really here. I'm excited to see the participants here. And we can't wait to have you in the alumni network group. So to add to the simple, as a simple line of introduction, I am extremely passionate about education. So everything education, you got me chained. I look forward to a very interesting discussion with you. Okay, my team members are going to swallow me if I don't mention that I am the current executive director of FlexiSAF Foundation, which is a nonprofit initiative that supports out-of-school children. That is our main focus, but we do a whole lot of in-school initiatives as well to make sure that children don't drop out. We target policies, and in summary, just check out our page. You'll find out more about us. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Amina. Kedei, did you want to introduce yourself briefly before we begin?
Yeah, sure. My name is Kedei Ibiang. I'm a medical doctor and a gender advocate. So my work intersects between gender equality, health, and education, particularly for girls and women. And I have mostly been involved with projects that provide sexual and reproductive health services to underserved women, women in internally displaced camps, women in interior communities, and girls in secondary schools. So usually the secondary schools that will not be reached by the typical kind of organizations. And I'm a huge gender equality advocate, so you will always see me speak about gender equality and how it affects all the facets of women's life, from their health to their economic lives, and then all the way down to how it affects education, because already we know that in Nigeria, girl child education is not exactly prioritized. But my main focus usually is health and gender. And in that mix, I'm also a businesswoman because I run a non-toxic fragrance business where we provide fragrance products that are devoid of alcohol and toxins, so you can use them safely. Both children and adults can use them and all of that. That's quite a brief summary of what I do.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kedei. So quickly, let me ask, when you saw the application, the call for application for Mandela Washington Fellowship, did you think you were qualified for it?
Well, that would be a mix of a yes and no. So the very first time I saw the application, I saw it on LinkedIn, and I was not exactly sure of what it was all about. I did a brief look at the the website and then the application portal and saw what was going on. So it was not really about being qualified for me. It was more about whether my work that I have done in the past years resonated with the kind of leaders that they are looking for. So I didn't necessarily use that to qualify or disqualify myself. It was more about how I articulated the work that I have done and whether or not they think that that is important enough work to be picked for the fellowship.
Yeah, thank you very much. Okay, so I mean, this is just to say to every woman here that the Mandela Washington Fellowship is it's an opportunity to aspire to. A lot of times we don't feel that we are qualified for opportunities. You know, we tend to downplay our achievements and the hard work that we put in and the impacts that we are making. So this just to encourage you, make sure you apply. I've put the link for the application in the chat. Please, if you've not started your application, click on it now, go through it, and if you have any questions, they are here to answer them. Miss Amina, just share how the experience was for you, how it's impacted your life and your work, so that they understand more why they should aspire to this opportunity.
Okay, so it will be an understatement from my end to even say that it was extremely impactful, because it was beyond impactful. So maybe before now, you've not really seen me online so much. It doesn't mean that I wasn't doing a lot of work. In fact, as far as I was concerned, I've been doing this since decades ago. But one of the things that the Mandela Fellowship convinced me to come out of is that comfort zone, where I don't really want to put myself out there. I think they've been able to hammer that in the head. Before now, I didn't really want to come out. Our cultures are a bit conservative, and if you're too much out and about here, there is some ruckus. So for me, that one is indeed the first transformation. Then the experience itself has been extremely amazing. I don't know if there is any other platform where you get to meet so many Africans and get the right view of Africa. Because before I went through the program, Africa wasn't a very positive image in my head. So when you mention Africa, I know many people here can relate as well. You think of poverty, you think of famine, you think of wars, you think of very corrupt leaders. And this is what is being sold out there, the media sells out there. So this was a platform for me to get to see the very good sides of Africa through the African leaders themselves. These are people like me. They also reside in Africa, and they're doing a lot of great work. So even it further poised me to continue what I'm doing, because through that, I really saw hope for Africa. And I saw that we can do a lot if we continue to tread this leadership path that we were doing. Then the exposure is phenomenal. We get exposed to a lot of different cultures. Then one thing that might be a myth that I want to clear is America is the perfect place to be. So when you go to America, yes, it's amazing completely, but you get to appreciate your Africa more. You love where you come from even more. And that is very important for a leader. That contentment of being where you are and doing what you are is a very, very important quality of leadership that nowadays we don't really. So that's affecting ethical leadership. Overall, it has really been a transformational journey for me. And I think you should absolutely apply. Don't leave yourself. Earlier, Dr. Kedei was asked about if she felt qualified. If you don't think you're qualified, then that's imposter syndrome. And I had it too. So you are absolutely qualified. Getting it or not does not mean that you're not an amazing leader. That is just Mandela Fellowship. But I am really encouraging you to try your best and make sure that your application stands out and get selected, because it's an amazing, amazing platform that it will change your life, literally. Thank you, Kate.
Thank you very much, Amina. Dr. Kedei, do you want to share about your experience as well, how it's impacted your life and your work?
So I'm still kind of fresh out, right? But just within the few months, I mean, even before we went, there's something that being a fellow does to your credibility. It kind of adds some sort of professionalism to the work that you have done, and then you will discover that there are places where you could not have walked into and spoken to people, but just by virtue of the fact that somewhere in your CV or your summary or your profile, you have the fact that you were chosen by the United States Department of State as a Mandela Washington Fellow. It just opens doors in places that you probably never expected. And then if beyond that, doors that you were knocking on before that were closed, they will be the ones to come open and look for you, like, oh, we're doing this. So it has been amazing just these few months. And even while we were there, the opportunities for collaboration and partnership to expand and upscale the work that you do are numerous. It's just up to you to take advantage of them and use that to impact the communities that you work in. So beyond the credibility, it widens your perspective of things. So like Amina said, you in your head, you think, oh, this is this place that everything works and it is amazing and they don't have their issues. But for me, just speaking with public health professionals and people who are in civic engagement work, you can see that the problems are pretty much the same worldwide, and they're just telling you that maybe it's the way their governments approach these problems and their solutions. It's what differentiates these first world countries from third world countries and African countries and the rest. So it gives you a wider perspective of the problems that plague the sector that you work in, how other governments have approached these problems, the things that have worked for them and the things that have not. And then you can bring that back and juxtapose it with your Nigerian experience and the work that you do here. And it now gives you a better way of, preparing solutions to these problems. So overall, it is an amazing opportunity. Like she said, shoot the shot and shoot a very good shot. So let your application be good. I mean, be articulative, speak about the work that you do, and make sure that somebody who reads this application goes, oh, wow, this person is doing really good stuff. Just get yourself to the interview, and in the interview, you can sell yourself as much as possible. But overall, amazing opportunity. I enjoyed my experience there, and there are so many things ahead that I have not even ventured into, but the opportunities are way too numerous.
Thank you very much, Dr. K. It just occurred to me that a lot of people here might not have even heard about the Mandela Washington Fellowship before. Would you please explain what it is and what the opportunity entails?
Okay. I mean, I was just like them last year. I stumbled on it for the very first time. I know somewhere there was someone I used to know who used to put on her on social media that she was a Mandela Washington Fellow, but I never really looked at it until last year when I saw the actual call for applications. So it is a flagship program of the United States Department of States, and it does that in collaboration with the Young African Leaders initiative. That's the YALI network. President Obama was the one who started this program in 2014. I mean, am I right? 2014?
Yes.
Yes. So it brings together 700 African leaders every year, picked from various African countries, and then they are spread between about 27 to 30 different institutes in the United States based on their tracks. So the tracks basically are a reflection of the work that you do in your country. So there's the civic engagement track, the business management track, and the public management track. So based on the work that you have done, you are placed in one of these tracks, and then that informs the institute that you go to and the state that you will be in. And it's a 6 weeks program. You get to be part of a leadership institute where you apply the experience that you have back home to the United States or the American experience. You get to interface with other African leaders. I think the most beautiful part of the program is meeting 20 to 25 other Africans from other countries who are doing great work, and you will definitely find someone doing work in the space that you do. And you're able to interact with this person and just share ideas and collaborate on projects. And you probably may never have had an opportunity to meet this person, but for this program. So the program lasts for 6 weeks, and then in the 6th week or late in the 5th week, there's a summit that brings together all 700 fellows. Usually it used to be a physical summit, but we had a virtual summit. So we joined the summit virtually, and it together all of the 700 leaders, in addition to agencies in the United States, non-governmental organizations, venture capitals, different partners from different societies in the United States and beyond, and still shared between these tracks: venture capitals for businesses, organizations for civic engagement people, and then public management. So United States departments, so like the Department of Agriculture, the Department of Health, and all of those things. And the summit is the last part of the program, and in the 6th week, you wrap up, get your certificates, and go back to your country and effect the change. In summary, that's what it is.
Thank you. Amina, did she miss something that you would like to add?
Well, I don't think she has missed it, but just to buttress my earlier point, she attended the summit virtually. So that means you've been able to engage with 24 other fellows for 6 weeks, right? In the institute, or 5 weeks, yeah. But I am a 2021 fellow, and we later had an engagement this year because ours was virtual, and we later had an engagement this year. And because it was virtual last year and it was so heartbreaking for us, can you guess who signed our certificates? I want the participants to guess. The both of you should not say anything. Just type it in the chat. Can you guess who signed our certificates? You can feel free to read from the answers, Nkechi.
Okay, so the chat is disabled, but you can type it. Someone, Morenica says President Obama.
No, very close, but no. We actually got a letter from Obama, yeah. A heart letter from Obama. So another guess, please.
Barack Obama, Joe Biden, Barack Obama.
President Joe Biden.
Yay! Well done.
He was actually,
Oyi and James.
Well done. Wow, Oyi, that's amazing. So it was actually President Joe Biden that signed our certificate 2021 fellows. And trust me, at first it wasn't a big deal because it's so difficult to move on from heartbreak. But after we've moved on from that heartbreak, I have been applying to certain things, including the UN. So recently there was an opportunity for attending the UN's event. I just redid my bio and included that in. I wasn't surprised to see that I was approved to attend that event. So, I mean, there is a whole lot of opportunities, like she said, for the Mandela Fellowship. You're going to meet a lot of different African leaders. And as I talk to you right now, there are certain things that I've been seeing. I wanted to get one of the examples is the Senegalese clothing from Senegal. I do some side hustle. Everybody does some side hustle. And right now I have a fellow from Senegal that I can trust, and she can do the groundwork for me there with a small commission. And I am assured that I can get my work. So please, it's a whole lot out there. Yeah, thank you.
I told the fellows in my institute that I have one fellow in at least 20 African countries. So if I decide to tour 20 African countries, I cannot be stranded. I can't be homeless. I have somebody who will probably be a tour guide or will pretty much just take me around. So there are several advantages to the fellowship, even beyond the career opportunities and the formal aspect of it. There's also the business and the informal aspect.
Yes.
Wow,
Okay.
amazing. Someone said, Rashidat says that great one, the network is powerful. Yeah, it sounds
Absolutely,
so,
absolutely. Your LinkedIn is not going to stop buzzing.
yeah, wow.
Mm-mm. At
Amazing.
all, at all. It literally
Wow.
will go crazy. I assure you, your LinkedIn will go crazy. It was a
Amazing.
lot to manage. Yes, it will literally go crazy, and you have to just find a way to manage the amount of attention that your LinkedIn is getting.
Wow.
Especially if you were, I wasn't even constantly posting while I was in the US, but when I came back, I started just posting snippets, and trust me, it just builds up your profile. And then you'll be looking at your insights and be seeing the kind of organizations that are taking a look at your profile, and it's amazing. Yeah.
Wow, amazing. Stella is asking, my question is to Miss Amina and Dr. K. Before you submitted your application, did you get anyone to help you review it, just to be sure everything is in order?
Yes. So for me, the first time that I applied, there was no particular fellow that helped me review it. And the first time that I applied, after I applied the second time, I could actually feel that I did better in my efforts. So the first time that I applied was in 2018, and I was still doing the work that I was doing, maybe not as much to sell, but it wasn't really, I didn't try my best in the application. So the second time, immediately the call for applications came, what I started doing is research. I went to research, I listened to what fellows had to say, I went to their websites. The US Embassy also has some resources for you. And they really hammered on getting somebody to review your application because they will see things that you didn't see, especially somebody who has had the experience before. So I got to meet a fellow. Of course, they are all on social media. So I got to meet a fellow and we had a good conversation with her on my application. And she was able to tell me certain things in the application that would not sell. And one of the most prominent mistakes that I see in the applications is you are answering a different question, giving a different answer for a different question. So for example, if they tell you be specific, you're still too afraid to be open. You're like, okay, we went to this call, we went somewhere. It's really vague. But if you tell me I went to Kuje in the FCT, or I went to Ebonyi State Community A, B, and C, and I did so and so. Firstly, just by reading it, I can have a feeling that you're not lying. Because they do due diligence. And one of the things is if they
Yes,
really can't do due diligence from your work, they just keep it aside. Okay, so this is too much headache. Even if what you're doing is absolutely amazing, which I am very sure it is, if you don't sell it well enough, there's a problem. And most of the time, you will not really see the gaps until you get someone who has had the experience to help you review the application. So yes, I absolutely got somebody to help review my application, and they pointed out certain things that I think strengthened my application.
Thank you very much, Amina. Dr. K, what about you?
Mine is completely different because I did a last minute application and it was my first time. So there was no way I could have had somebody to review it. It was partially my fault that I didn't get, although I'm not very sure I would have reached out to someone to review it, to be honest, because I didn't think it was a big deal at that time. What happened was I opened the application portal and I filled in my bio data and the initial parts of the form talking about all of your personal details. But then I abandoned it until the last day and now ended up doing pressure cooker work for about 40 minutes. I will not advise anybody to do that because you might have loopholes in your application and you might just waste a shot that you could have shot very well. But I didn't have anybody review my application. What I did was that I had the application portal open on one side and I had a Google document open on the other side. So I split my laptop screen in two. And I was pretty much just listing the questions, dropping on the Google documents, and then typing out my answers. And after typing out my initial answers, I went through them again, then had to fit it into the word count for the questions, because you see that some questions have a limit of 250 words, some have a limit of 150 words. So I now had to compress and summarize my answers. But I think that worked because at the time, the work that I was doing, it was easy to get to draft out my story off the tip of my fingers. And I could easily just spit out statistics because we were right in the middle of it. But I'll not advise anybody to do that pressure cooker work, please. As much as possible, if you have access to somebody who can review your applications, send them to that person, let them have a second look. There, like Amina said, you might be answering a question, but that answer is not for that particular question that you're putting it to. Especially in the areas where, there was somewhere where they talked about how you community service and then your accomplishments. It can be kind of easy to mix up your answers, but if you get a second eye to take a look at it, they might point out mistakes that you may not have seen and then enable you to put in a more concise application, like your story will flow a lot better. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Dr. K and Amina. Sarah is asking, the term I keep hearing is African leaders. In your terms, who is an African leader, please?
So,
okay. I can take the question.
Really, leaders? Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so leadership means different things to a lot of different people. But if you further read the application, you would see one nice thing about Americans that I have to say is they can be very clear in their conversations. If you just look very closely, you would understand what they're trying to mean. So leader, to them, they will tell you what exactly it means in that application that they're talking about. It could be somebody that is working in a government agency, but they're doing way beyond just their role. So for example, some of the doctors that we work with, some of them will tell you that when the COVID-19 pandemic started, there was no compulsion for them to be at work, but some of them even let themselves be there. And there is no items because, we face corruption, not just in Nigeria, a lot of places in Africa as well. One of the fellows had a very amazing story on how there was no equipment for her to work with. And she had to do a fundraising because it was so pathetic. The whole situation was so pathetic. So if you want to talk about leadership, mostly what you would see is that person has this genuine effort to make change in their societies. That's what they want to see. How big or how little it is doesn't really matter. What they want to see is you specifically demonstrating what you've been able to do in your community and your potential. Because also the questions that what are your plans? What are your plans? Your potential to do even more. And that being able to do it at first has convinced them that you're really somebody worthy of their investment, and that potential to do more, they believe their platform will be able to offer you that opportunity to do much, much more than you're doing. So leadership just means that you're of service to your community in whatever way that you're serving, whether you are an NGO founder or just working in an NGO space, or you're doing business, but there is a consciousness in your business that I need to give back, not just to make money. That one too. You're impacting a lot of lives, changing lives. That is what I understand as an African leader, yes. Of course, it's in an African community.
Yes. Thank you, Amina. Dr. K, we're going to say something.
Yeah, leadership is mostly around the traits that you exhibit and the passion and commitment that you have shown to bring in solutions to problems that you have encountered. So, buttressing her point about the change you're making in your community, no matter how small, and the potential for that change to reach a larger number of people if you are given a global platform. So you have to have been doing something that is affecting the members of your community, that is reaching out to people who normally may not have gotten the service that you are rendering, or you are bringing together people who normally may not have had access to some kind of opportunities and showing them these opportunities. So not necessarily about whether you run a business and the business is bringing in profit. How is that business affecting your immediate community and your state and whatever, right? For me, it was I really focused on the project I was working at the time, and it was linked to the COVID-19 period because we're providing remote support to gender-based violence survivors and giving them access to organizations who can also provide physical help. This was during the lockdown. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, my internet got disrupted.
Okay.
Were you able to continue when I was away?
Yes.
Oh, okay, great.
Although the recording stopped.
Oh, wow, okay.
They get the
It
picture.
has resumed. It has resumed.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, let me see what other questions we have. Okay, okay, someone was asking what background do you have? What impacts were you making? Dr. K has shared in her previous answer. Amina, would you like to share yours as well so they get an idea of what these kind of impacts we are talking about are?
Okay, so an example of impact might mean that you didn't just come to the street just like that, and you have to be a little bit more deliberate in your efforts to make change. So for example, you go to a community that is hardly reached, and in that community you pick a few children that if you had not been there, they probably wouldn't have had access to that education that you're offering them, and you take them to school. That is an example of impact, especially if you can notice the change in them immediately. She also explained how, for her, because what leadership also means is your ability to be able to use initiative, and they are very particular about this. So you met a situation and you created an initiative out of it. That is a very important quality of a leader. So COVID-19 was there and she couldn't do her physical work, but she used her initiative to see that, okay, me, if I cannot get access because there's a lockdown, I am not, those badges they were carrying around, I am not able to do anything physical, I can't go out, but at least let me link these survivors to people who can go to them, to people who they can get help with. That is an initiative, and that is impact, because it's going to affect them positively. So anything you're able to do that will positively affect an individual. So like if you're writing a proposal, they'll tell you in your objectives, be very clear on if you're reducing a problem, then you're putting it in descending order. And if you're increasing some positive outcomes, then you're putting it in increasing order. So I want to summarize to say that impact means you are actually making positive change. That's what it means. And it is affecting those that you're bringing that change to. Positive change, which means that the change you're bringing is positive, most of the time more positive than negative. And it is changing the conditions, no matter how small, whether it is 1%, 2%, but you're actually there and your being there is positively impacting those that you're serving. Yeah, that's impact.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Amina. So before we continue with the questions, let's take a look at some of the long essay questions. So the first one is provide an overview of your major professional accomplishments from the past year, as well as your long-term goals and aspirations. What motivates you to work in the field that you do. Would you give like an insight into how someone can attempt these questions?
Okay. Yeah. For me, I started out with the fact that I'm a medical doctor and I am focused on providing health services to women and girls, because we already know that that is a population that is marginalized and subjugated. Not every woman has access to health services, especially in the interior areas. So I started out with that, plus the fact that I have been a very vocal gender equality advocate on social media. So I had a trail, so you could back up to 2016, 2017 on my Facebook or on Instagram, not very much on Instagram, Facebook and Twitter. And you could see that this is something that I have been talking about and working on for a number of years. And I focused on the fact that, I put in numbers, so achievements that are tangible and measurable. I spoke about the number of women that this project that I was a coordinator for had reached, how many states that we had covered, the number of organizations that we had partnered with to bring about a holistic response and support service to these women, the number of women we hope to reach in the next 6 months to 1 year, and the other services that we're willing to provide. So when you are speaking about the things that you have done, make it quantifiable. You don't just say, oh, I have reached women and girls in communities over the past number of years. I have reached 1,000 women in 3 to 5 communities in this part of Nigeria over the past 6 months to 1 year. Let there be statistics that can speak for you. And please do not lie about your statistics. You see this thing about digging and verifying, they're not joking. So because the project had a website, we had a social media handle, we had a LinkedIn page, I was able to put in all of those for them to see that I wasn't just bluffing, or I wasn't just quoting numbers off the top of my head. You could go see that on social media, we had lives, we had webinars, we had spoken about these things, we had put out phone numbers where people could reach out, and then we are able to provide you with the support that you need. So it was a flow starting from who I am, the work that I do, my areas of interest, how I have worked in those areas, the change that I have been able to bring about so far, and what I hope to do subsequently. Yeah.
Okay, so the major theme, according to Dr. K, is one major thing I got from what she just shared is make sure that in answering this first question, that your results are tangible and measurable. Quote numbers, don't exaggerate. If it's one person, say one person with your full chest. If it's 1,000, say 1,000. And then she also mentioned about putting your work out in public. What I really like about this panel is that we have the two sides of the coin. There's Dr. K, whose work can be found online, and then there's Amina, whose work was not online at the time of her application. So can you share about that? How were they able to verify the numbers and the claims that you made in your answer?
Okay, so thank you for that. And this question actually looks quite similar to what I applied for in 2019. So the memories just kept flooding back. So firstly, what I would like to say to you is don't forget that there are thousands of people applying. Every year it increases like 200%, they will tell you. So last year, if 50,000 people applied, probably this year there might be 100,000 people. And it is part of their own ethical arrangement with every applicant that they must review every application. So you know your application is just one of those applications while it is being reviewed at that point. So I would like to state some, if you have a notepad, please start noting them down, even though they might have this online, going to stream it back. If it is not accessible, just note this down. These are some of the things that have really helped me, and I hope they help you too. Firstly, go straight to the point. If you check the question, they said, provide an overview of your major professional accomplishments from the past year. It's very, very specific. They are talking about the past year. Secondly, notice that there are 3 questions there, as well as your long-term goals and aspirations. What they are looking for is long-term goals and aspirations. Long-term goals might mean 3 to 5 years, and aspiration might mean something like, I want to become the next health minister, something like that. So that could be an aspiration. That's the first 2 questions. Then the last question is, what motivates you to work in the field? Please be very, very specific. They are going to be scoring you as you answer those 3 questions. Even if what you're saying makes sense in another context, if you're not answering the question, you're not getting the mark. It's just like if they give you fractions in maths. If I ask you to solve 1/4 plus 1/8 for me, and you go and solve 1/12 plus 1/4, you might have gotten it right, but that's not what I'm looking for. So please be very particular about the question and answer it very well. Then secondly is be very specific with your accomplishments. Don't go and start saying, I worked in Kano state government. Just be very, very open. If you're not open, you're not giving them a chance to get to know you anyway. So why would they want to invest in you? So be very open. If you have worked in Hotoro community in Kano and you have helped 100 Almajiri children in partnership with State Universal Basic Education Board, please state that there. And you're making their work easier by stating State Universal Basic Education Board, because that's a big name. So out of the 50,000 applications, already them seeing something like State Universal Basic Education Board, National Agency for Mass Literacy, you are actually inviting them to pay more attention to your application. That's literally what you're doing, because you are being open, firstly. Secondly, you're making it easy for them to verify that information. So be very specific. That's being specific with the numbers and the communities and the agencies you work with. Don't be shy to mention the big names. If you've been on CNN, that is a really big accomplishment. Mention that you've been on CNN and mention why CNN selected you. You have a word count to obey. So be mindful of that word count you need to obey, as well as your long-term goals and aspirations. So I help Almajiri children through State Universal Basic Education Board. My long-term vision is to help 10,000 Almajiri children by partnering with, I can even mention the name of the NGOs that I've had conversations with, because they might actually reach out to them to see if you've started something. And I also want to do something with the Universal Basic Education Board. So in the next 10 to long-term goals and aspirations, I am touching the lives of 10,000 children. I mean, you've given them a reason to want to invest in you. That's big impact for them. Then what motivates you to work in the field? You might use a story to demonstrate what motivates you. But even if you don't use a story, be very particular, very specific. Don't go long term. This thing happened. Kinikong, like my friend will say, don't use too much. Be very specific. Even if you don't exhaust the 250 words, they are not saying you must reach 250 words. But by the time you finish answering the questions, go back and check your answers and your questions and ask yourself, if I read this application, this answer that I have given, have I answered an overview of my accomplishments the past year specifically? If you have done that, go to the next question. Have I stated my long-term goals and aspirations? You might want to separate them in paragraphs as well. Then what motivates you? Have I stated what motivates me in the field? If you have done that, then what you need to do is just to review your applications and keep seeing if there are some things that you have missed out. So she also mentioned that my work not being online. I think one of the things that really helped me is the fact that we work with a whole lot of government agencies and some small big names, including the US Embassy. So yes, I was able to state, I didn't even mention that I work with the US Embassy in my application. I didn't mention that. I mean, they should know that even if it's not their department, past year. There's a reason why they are asking about the past year. So it might be that you've been doing amazing work from 2017, 2018. If you have stopped, why? You understand? So, but if you have continued, you are able to demonstrate that with that past accomplishment. But with that being said, let me put a disclaimer. That doesn't mean that you cannot state your past accomplishments, but just make sure that you've read Kedei. This is what I want to add to the Kedei saying. And like she hammered on you not lying, please don't feel the need to lie. And don't think that Mandela Fellowship is a platform for you to validate what you're doing. It's just by the way. You are an African, you are a Nigerian, you are proud to serve your community, and you will continue to be proud to serve your community, whether you get in or not. But if you do the work well, you probably get in. So don't feel the need to lie, please. Be very honest, open, and specific, and do justice to the questions that they're asking. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Amina. I love how you were able to break down that first question. You separated them into accomplishments, long-term goals, specific aspirations, and then what motivates you. And then you advise that we take a paragraph to answer each of those questions, because even though they are one question, we are going to be scored based on each one, right? Thank you very much. Dr. K, someone is asking, could you help with a rundown? Oh, no, not that question. How can you? Okay, yeah. How can you measure success, especially since your work was under an organization? So if you're not a founder, if you're not the CEO, how can you measure your success if in that sense?
Okay. I wasn't focused on the fact that I own or run an organization. I still don't. I possibly will soon, but it was mostly around the work that the organization does and how I contribute to that work. So because I was project coordinator, I was overseeing a number of teams and at the same time providing like a hovering supervisory role for the support hub. So I spoke about the accomplishments of that project that I was heading with the organization. It didn't matter whether I was the one who founded the project, whether I'm the owner of the organization, or whether I sit on the board or not. This is the work that I do, and this is the role I play in this project. And via this role that I play in the project, this is what we have been able to do. So I noted the fact that I was coordinating this project. I didn't own the organization or run it. So it was something like, for example, that first question, I stated that the COVID-19 period showed like the gender-based violence shadow pandemic, and people were stuck with their abusers or possible perpetrators and blah, blah, blah. I sit as the project coordinator of a project that provides remote support to survivors of gender-based violence. This is what I do. So I mentioned that I am part of the team that provides this, and that. In addition to that, I also sit on this other team that does. So it was, I explored all of the roles and responsibilities that I have as a member of that organization, and how my work has impacted the projects that that organization is implementing, and then what the project has been able to achieve. So it didn't matter whether it was my organization or not.
Thank you very much, Dr. K. Thank you. So that's clear. So whether you're working in an organization or whether you're a founder, they are most interested in hearing about the impacts that you made while in that organization, or the impact that you contributed to ensuring happens in the organization.
Okay, so just to add simply to what Dr. Kedei said, that's why there are 3 tracks, and you have to understand which track that you are applying for. It's very important that you understand. So for many of us that are working in government agencies or big agencies and we are just in part of departments, some of them fit in public management. So if you're applying and you think that you are not just applying from an NGO perspective, maybe just at a government agency or you're a doctor like Dr. Kedei or something, you might want to apply under public management. And just seeing that you are applying under public management will strengthen your application because you are actually making change when you are not the actual boss. You are a part of something and you're making change. So I just want to add that please go back and read the tracks very well and understand them so that you position yourself well as well.
Thank you very much, Amina. Thank you. There's a question. What is your biggest accomplishment? Okay. What if your biggest accomplishment is in this year? Dr. Amina, please.
Okay, so I'm not doctor, but yeah. So are you asking me specifically or you're asking about answering?
Yeah, I'm asking you. Okay, so this is a question from an attendee, and she said, that first question was asking, what is your biggest accomplishment
No.
the past
They
year?
said provide an overview. So overview means you're actually going to state a lot of accomplishments, but make sure you state the biggest ones because I'm sure you have like 50 or 100 accomplishments, but the 250 words will not take it. So an overview can state. So me personally, I think getting a certificate signed by President Joe Biden is one of my biggest accomplishments. But in my work, we actually, Flexisar Foundation, the organization that I work for, got endorsed in a national policy document as part of the working group that is steering accelerated basic education. So what that means is we are actually an authority that you can come to anytime you want to run an alternative education program or a community school. And we are a notable authority, and Nigeria overall recognizes it because it's a national policy document. So that is a huge, huge accomplishment for me in that world because this is giving me an opportunity to impact nothing less than 3 million to 5 million children, as we believe that accelerated education is the future. Many kids cannot be able to attend conventional school due to security issues and so on. So that endorsement is a big thing. So you might be wondering, so now me, I've not been endorsed and she's talking about endorsement. What should I say? Okay, I'll give you another example. We have also been able to help 628 children during the past year, not just to get to school, but we have been able to provide a sustainable mechanism for their parents to continue to support them. What that means is we have paid the first registration fees for those 628, but now we are no longer going to pay. We are going to look for another 1,000 children to help. So I'm going to have maybe the same resources that I had last year, but I'm going to reach different kind of people because I have been able to help those that I have helped to keep helping themselves. So I did not just give them fish, I taught them how to fish. And that is also a very big accomplishment for me. So, that one is also something I would like to state. I am giving you personalized examples so that you position yourself also personalized. So if you're working in the community, helping women to get access to loans, how many women have you been able to help? And how is that going to, it's a very big accomplishment to help one woman. So what you would like to qualify that with is, what is her family size? How influential she is in her community. All of these are accomplishments because they are always direct and indirect beneficiaries. So this is just an example of an accomplishment for me. I hope it did justice to your question, whoever is asking.
Yeah, thank you. So the question is, what if those accomplishments are within this year and not the previous year as stated in the question?
Exactly. So you see, that's why it's very important to understand English. They said over the past year. Over doesn't mean that
until the application.
Exactly. So it doesn't only mean from 2021. No, that's not what they mean. They said over. So what have you been able to do since that time, maybe a year and a half, up till now? What have you been able to do? That's what the question is asking. And it's very important to understand English, like I said. Another reason why you should get a fellow to review your answers for you, yes.
Yeah,
So
thank
I
you.
hope that answers, yeah.
Yeah. Dr. K, can you see the question, the second question? Can you quickly answer, give an idea on how we can answer them best?
Which of the questions?
Okay, let me read it. Okay, on the application question, the second one, based on your understanding.
Oh, the second application question.
Yes.
All right. Okay, so based on your understanding of your preferred institute or track of study, what skills and knowledge do you hope to gain from the fellowship that you will not be able to develop through other opportunities? Second part, how will you use those skills and that knowledge to enhance your activities in your community within the next 3 to 5 years? So this question will be different, like your answer will be different based on the track that you are applying to. I was applying to the civic engagement track, so I focused on the skills that I would gain from the civic engagement organizations that we'll be interfacing with. So I spoke about things like gaining more information about how they have been able to get communities to be a part of interventions, like not just that you are coming as a problem solver and coming to provide this change, how they were able to get communities to partner with them to provide changes. I spoke about collaboration with both organizations within Nigeria and outside Nigeria. I spoke about advocacy and policy, policy influencing, because a lot of times civic engagements, you are speaking to particular issues, civic issues. So depending on the civic issue that you're speaking to, I spoke about interfacing with the government and influencing these policies. So I listed out the skills. For example, somebody who's applying to business management will say, I will want to gain negotiating skills. I will speak about learning or improving my fundraising skills, how to collaborate with other businesses to achieve a common goal, how to network with venture capitals and get them to invest in the business that we are doing, collaboration with the government and with civil societies. So be particular about the skills that you want to gain. I focused on collaboration, engagement with the government, policy changes, community advocacy, and influencing health policies. So don't just say, I hope to gain skills that will enable me to do better work. That's not an answer. Pick the skills, have a list of skills. You want to learn how to be a better communicator, you want to learn how to manage your team better, you want to learn how to collaborate better with other organizations, you want to learn how to raise funds for your project, you want to learn how to interface with the government and get them to listen to you. So be particular about 3 to 5 skills and hammer on the fact that these are the skills that you want to do, that you want to gain based on the work that you do. And then because you now have a clear idea of the skills you're talking about, you can then say, these skills will now enable me to do this and this and this when I get back after the fellowship, and will improve the work that I do in these communities. For example, as I was saying, I spoke about community advocacy, community entry, and how to get the community members to partner with you to be an intrinsic part of the change that you're bringing. So if I have gained that skill, I'm saying that I will come back to these communities and apply these skills on this project such that the communities are able to work with us to implement the project that we are doing. It will no longer seem like we are on one side and the community is on the other side. And then with the negotiating skills that I have gained, I'll be able to better speak with representatives of government agencies and get them to listen to us. So have a list of skills. Be specific about the skills that you want to gain based on your track and the work that you have done. And then when you have spoken about those skills, you now answer the second, let me pull up the questions again. You now answer the second part of the question. how you will use those skills and the knowledge to enhance activities in your community in the next 3 to 5 years. So you focus on the fact that when you have gained these skills, they will enable you to do this and do that and do that and do that. That's a summary of that question. So.
Thank you very much, Dr. K. Amina.
Okay, so I think Dr. K has actually said a lot about it, but I just want to again rehammer on my point for the first question. Please read through the question line by line. Firstly, what they are expecting in the first part of your response is they want to understand if you even understand what you're applying for. So if you're telling me that you've applied for civic track and what you're talking about is business, madam, what is happening now? So, you know, that your preferred track is very important. Understand what your preferred track is and what skills and knowledge you hope to gain, because under every track, civic track, business track, public management track, they have different modules. What you're going to learn will be a little bit different, even though they'll be similar in some cases, but they'll be different because what you need will be different. So demonstrate your understanding of that preferred track. Make sure you understand it. That is going to really help your answer. Secondly is, they asked, how would you, that you would not be able to through other opportunities, because Mandela Fellowship is aware that globally there is a whole lot of resources, opportunity. There is chevening, there is Atlas Core, there is what there is. So you have to, that one, they are expecting to see that you even understand what the Mandela Fellowship is. That's why you have to read and really understand what you're going in for, because they know there are so many other opportunities. Have you been able to even understand what you're going in for? That's what, then you'll be able to qualify your answers well if you understand that. Then how will you use those skills and knowledge? I think she explained it well as well. Be very specific. In the next 3 to 5 years, if I have gained communication skills, how am I going to utilize communication skills? So me, for example, if I gain communication skills through Mandela Fellowship, what I'm going to use it for is, I'm going to amplify my work, because now I am a better public speaker. I am not giving you expo. If it is expo, they would know anyway through plagiarism, but I'm just giving you a very clear example. Make sure that clarity, your word, your keyword in this application should be clarity, 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 and give somebody else to read it. If they don't understand it, it means that person reviewing might also not understand. So be very, very clear in what firstly your preferred track is, why you really need that Mandela Fellowship platform, and then how you use those skills. Be very specific and don't call it, like she said, to do better in my work. What do you mean by do better? We're asking you about skills, so mention them skill by skill. Is it communication you want? Is it community engagement you want? Do you want to advocate for policies? You know, be very specific. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Next 3 to 5 years, by the way. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Thank you very much, Amina. So the next question is, Mandela Nelson said, a fundamental concern for others in our individual and community lives will go a long way in making the world the better place we so passionately dreamt of. Public and community service are essential responsibilities for leaders. What changes or other improvements do you hope to implement in the communities that you engage through your work? How are you working towards these goals? And what do you hope to accomplish in the future? Amina, please.
Okay. Yes, so they always quote Nelson Mandela, but that shouldn't freak you out, because I've had a few people reaching out to me to say, oh my God, what do they mean here? Like I said, English is difficult, but English is also not difficult if you can calm down and understand English. Yeah, it's just a language. So they are saying, after you read the quote, probably relate your answers to that quote. It's very clear. A fundamental concern for others in our individual concern and community lives would go a long way in making the world a better place we saw. So he is actually even talking about your concern for others. So if you're doing something, it means you're concerned for others, not just yourself. That's a very important quality of leadership. Public and community service are essential responsibilities for leaders. What changes or improvements do you hope to implement? Even if what you're stating is very ambitious, they don't mind. They just want you to demonstrate that firstly, you understand what they are asking of you. So if you see the word improvements, what changes or other improvements? So let's say, like I said, you have 50 accomplishments, 100 accomplishments, those 250 words cannot carry. And they are asking you what changes or other, please be related to your first question. You don't have to say as flowing from my first question, but let's say there are some things that you have not told them that you want to improve upon, but this is an opportunity for you to add to those 250 words. Maybe they know you have too many accomplishments, and this is another opportunity for you to, you have to really sit down. That's one of the first steps. Write all of these things out. If you write them out in bullets and what you want to say about them, it will really help you. Because if you're trying to do everything from your head, it's difficult. It will get fuzzy at some point. So what do you hope to implement in the communities? Another thing is be specific. You are engaging through your work. The more specific you are, the easier it is for you. So yes, you are engaging community A, and community A, what they need is advocacy for gender-based violence. They need it more than community B that you're working in. So in your first improvement, okay, in community A, this is what I want to do. This is what I hope to do. That's what the question is changing. And how are you working towards this? You're already doing something. Be able to demonstrate that this is what you're able to do already. This is what you've been doing. This is what you hope to bring about. And you know, the more specific you are, the better. And what else do you hope to accomplish? Okay, so you have not stated it. Even if it is not in that community, what else do you hope to accomplish? Again, your accomplishments. They want to see if you actually have a direction in your life. Because if you don't have direction, you don't know where you're going. Madam, I am driving my car. I want to give you a lift. The direction that I am driving is towards Nikon Junction. The direction that you're driving is towards Pape. Maybe they are on the same lane or they are not on the same lane. I want to be able to know that if I carry you in my car, I will be able to help you get to Nikon Junction. That's the lift. So do you hope to accomplish in the future? Be very specific. They want to see you have a direction. If you don't already have a direction, please get to have a direction now so that you demonstrate that in this question. And like I said, the questions are always intertwined. And there are questions in questions. So read through them one by one and answer them to yourselves, write them down before you start answering them in your application. This is what I want to say in question number 1, 2, 1B, right? 2, question number 2, yeah.
3.
No, sorry, question number 3. Yeah, the one that I'm reading here is not marked with 1, 2, 3. Okay. That's why there's a slight confusion. I hope I've done justice.
Yes, very much. Yeah, you did. Dr. A, someone is asking the question of, do you plan on traveling to the USA? What if you plan on a master's in the USA, but you have not yet gotten admission yet? Should you say yes?
If you have you gotten admission for this master's? That's one. I'm looking at the question you're talking about. What if you plan on? Please, if you've not gotten admission, no, you don't have any travel plans. You don't even have tickets. They've not offered you admission. It's a no. So you're answering no. The question said, I'm looking at the application form and it says, have you traveled to the United States before? Or do you have upcoming travel to the United States planned? So it's no and no. You don't have travel planned. It's not like you have a master's that you're going for in September and you already have it settled and you are going like by what? Okay, maybe let's say you're doing summer of 2023. So you plan on applying. Yes, no problem. That's between you and your family and your application, to be very honest. There was someone, which year was that? So after my application, when we got the fellowship, I was speaking with a 2018, I think, fellow who was speaking about a lady who applied for the fellowship. She had applied for a master's. It had not come through yet. She didn't know whether or not she was going to get the admission. She applied for the fellowship as well. got the fellowship, and a couple of weeks later got the master's. So she went for the fellowship and did not come back to Nigeria. She pretty much just moved on from there, as per her master's was meant to begin in, I think, August, September, and the fellowship ended in July. And I think she went for PDA as well. So she had that extra month of stay. So she just continued from that. But she did not say yes in her application because she has not yet seen congratulations as per you have gotten admission. So you don't have any upcoming travel plans. It's a no.
Thank you very much. Wisdom. Okay, so
yes, you have to apply wisdom.
Yes. So can we get a guide on how best to answer the last question? Describe a situation where you used your leadership skills to resolve a conflict or a disagreement. How do you encourage respectful discussion when working with people from different backgrounds, identities, or perspectives? Dr. Amina,
okay, that's for me. All right.
Okay. Yeah, Dr. Kedei wants to. Okay. So I'm looking for the question. And why am I not able to find
it?
it?
If you click on Q&A, use the last question, the second to last question there, the person asking.
Okay. So yes, how you resolve the conflict. Once again, don't say I went there, don't start telling stories. Yes, they know that you can be able to resolve conflict. That's why you're a leader in the first place. But what skills, what leadership skills have you applied to resolve that conflict or disagreement? How do you encourage respectful discussion when working with people in different backgrounds, identities, or perspectives? So I'll give you my own personal example that I've been able to solve. We work in a community that has diverse people. You know, at that time that we applied, also farmer-herder clash was also reigning. So we had farmers there, we had herders there, because of the kind of group of people that we work with. And then we also have some Hausa people there that are traders. You know, a lot of chaos. We met a lot of chaos in that community, and us with our inexperience, the approach we used to even enter the community was not completely okay. Of course, you have to make mistakes and learn. And what we were proposing to them is some of the facilitators of their children are going to be Christians. So you see, this is a Muslim majority community, and we are proposing a lot of things that are not going to work. So already there's too much chaos with us. They are fighting with us. They are fighting among themselves. There's too much chaos. So one of the things that I used in my application is one time when I went to the community, I said, you know what, please, we are very innocent people. We are not members of your community. What we do is we help provide education for children. And if we were able to convince them, and if your children are able to learn, you're going to benefit from A, B, and C. You know, these are all communication skills.
Yeah.
Being able to persuade. So I actually use the word persuasive skills. I went through and did my homework on how I can persuade these people. I told them all the benefits that will come with their children learning. Firstly, so they've already started, I have bought their attention. They are listening to me. So the second thing I said is, look, if you are fighting amongst yourself, how will you be able to, the project is not going to work because it requires the community to buy into it. So look, this is another communication skills. Firstly, I use my persuasive skills to convince them of the benefits they are going to get. So that has gotten them to listen to me. You know, I am being specific here. Firstly, my persuasive skills led them to listen to me because they were not listening before. They were just fighting with them among themselves and with us. Secondly, I used my communication skills to explain to them that if they are not being able to work amongst themselves, you know, I was very clear. And if they are not working amongst themselves, that means it is going to affect our own institution because the children are also going to be having problems among themselves. Firstly, secondly, whenever we call a meeting, it's not going to work. I was able to be very clear with those community people, and that is communication. Because you know what? If I come and start talking to Ikechi now, before I say one, two sentences, Nkechi will understand because she's educated, she's enlightened. And that is why I said my communication skills, and I was able to demonstrate that my communication skills was needed for that group of people because look, they are not enlightened, they don't understand. For the most part, they don't even care. They care about their egos and the fighting more than whatever you're bringing to those children. So persuasion first and then communication second, to be able to relay that information to them. Then thirdly, the leadership skill I was able to use is I was being a little bit authoritative. So I told them, I said, fine, at this point in time, it's still part of communication. If you don't give us the needed cooperation that you're going to give us, and that is important for a leader, by the way, you have to know when to pull out for leadership. And I was able to demonstrate that we are just going to pull out because this is what we do. Your community is just one of the communities. Whether we do it or not, it's not a do or die affair. So I got them to understand that very well. We will just pull out and go to some other community and do this thing. And they are going to be the ones showing all the benefits that we talked to you about. And last is the community people that came with a committee to say, okay, we are going to revert back to you with a list of children and you can do your verification. I got them to really understand what we are here for through my persuasive communication skills. And most importantly, I was able to demonstrate in my application how I was able to get them to have respectful discussion despite their differences. So why they are even asking that question is they know there are differences among the people and they want to see what skills help you to bring about that respectful discussion. So note that different backgrounds, identities, or perspectives also, because they know it's very difficult. So if it is from similar perspectives, that might not buy in too much. Think of what you've been able to do with people of different backgrounds, identities, and perspectives, even if it is just perspective. The question is all. It doesn't have to combine all of it, but they have different perspectives and you were able to bring about respectful discussion. That's a very important thing, and the skills specifically. Yes.
Thank you very much, Amina. So to reiterate what Amina has said, in answering that question, explain the conflict, explain how your specific skills were used in resolving them. But most importantly, also show in your answer that the people you were involved with were of different backgrounds, identities, and perspective. That's very clear, I believe. Then Lesson is asking, strong leaders demonstrate resiliency in the face of challenges. The repercussions of the COVID-19 global health pandemic, economic crisis, and conflict pose significant challenges both globally and locally. How have you demonstrated resiliency during challenging times? What lessons have you learned from this experience, and how are you applying these lessons in your work? What is the best approach to answering these questions? Dr. K.
Hi. I think this question was probably a little easier for me because I was already working on something that related to the COVID-19 period and all of the crises that came with it. So I first stated how COVID-19 has affected Nigeria economically, people's jobs have been affected, the emotional state and mental health of people, and how that could further aggravate already abusive situations, especially for women. So I stated that, so possibly that, okay, a husband or a partner has possibly lost a job, and this is somebody who was already violent before, and then the means by which this person provides, or one of the things that fills their ego, has been taken away. So it becomes an even worse situation. So I pointed that out and spoke about the challenges that we have faced in Nigeria. So the fact that there was a lockdown, movement was restricted, people couldn't get access to the services that they will usually get, and the consequences that this posed to the people who would probably be reaching out, and the fact that they cannot reach out now. So how did we demonstrate resiliency? We thought about the fact that if we cannot reach these people physically, we need to find a way to reach them. So we decided to provide remote support. And in addition to this, we partnered with organizations who are still running shelters and with some agencies in some state governments who still had like task forces that were operating to be able to remove these women from potentially like life-threatening situations, whether or not there was a lockdown, and ensuring that they get shelter, get some form of protection, and then get all of the other forms of support. So that was the resilient manner we responded to the challenge of COVID-19 and the shadow pandemic of gender-based violence. So what lessons did we learn? I spoke about the fact that it showed how we do not have a coordinated health response. So in all of the health responses that we had for COVID-19, there was nothing that was particularly providing gender-based violence response, even though we had seen that rates of violence had spiked in that period. That was the year when we got quite a number of social media protests about girls who had been raped and killed, women who had been abused or violated, and all of those kind of things. So pointed out how this showed that we do not have coordinated response to gender-based violence. So it took the COVID-19 pandemic to show that we do not have a response for gender-based violence. Even in the hospitals, we do not necessarily have a desk where a woman who has been violated can go to. She's going to see the usual doctor, and this person might just be providing medical services, and that is it. So those are the lessons that we have seen. What are the lessons and how we're applying these lessons to our current work? That is what made us to collaborate with organizations that are providing other forms of services so that we are giving a holistic response to the survivors that we encounter. So we're not just giving you counseling services, we're not just giving you a physical shelter, we're also ensuring that you get assistance medically, your wounds and whatever are treated. If you were sexually abused, you get to receive proper treatment and care for that. And then if you need subsequent economic empowerment, so the lessons, a holistic response. So that was the flow and that was the story. Spoke about the challenges that COVID-19 has posed economically, conflict-wise, and how these problems that it has posed, how it has affected the lives of the people that we provide services to, and then how we have demonstrated resiliency by ensuring that we're still providing these services, although remotely. Then the lessons, the challenges that we have faced in providing services, and then how we are applying these lessons in our current work is that we are making the response more holistic, and then, trying to influence policies to ensure that gender-based violence response becomes part of emergency responses. So that is how I answered that question. If you can break down your answer into the different lines that are here, you will have a good story going on, and then you can summarize it subsequently to fit into I think this question is 150 words or thereabout, but if you have a scenario where you can just give short responses to every part of that question, whether that was when you discovered that you could make money on social media and you could show other women how to make money, you talk about it. Whether that was the time when you discovered that you knew how to write, and the fact that you did not have a physical job now showed you that you can explore other streams of income, and now you're showing other people how to do that, you write about it. Whether it showed you that, your business does not necessarily need to have a physical shop, and you now were able to set up your business on social media, and you were still delivering orders and taking orders and blah, blah, blah. And the lessons that you learned and how you applied it, you speak about it, but just break down the question into the various parts that it has and then put together one answer.
Thank you very much, Dr. K. Amina, do you have an addition to that?
I think Dr. K has pretty much said everything, but they should just, what you might want to demonstrate for that word resiliency is that despite the pandemic, you didn't stop making change. So it means that you kept doing what you're doing, because the pandemic blew people off their feet. but you were able to continue doing something, no matter how small. So even if the example she gave might not be, what you did is not as big as the examples, but you did something. That's the resiliency. You were able to, despite challenge, stand on your feet and continue to be strong.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much, Amina. We have 4 more minutes before we close. So if you have any more questions, please ask them now or ask them on the Telegram group, and Dr. K and Amina can also answer them in the Telegram group. So last question will be taken before we go. The Mandela Washington Fellowship values diversity, equity, and inclusion and strives to reach diverse audience through all programming. What do these values mean to you, and how do you exemplify these values in your professional and personal life? Dr. K, please answer.
Okay. First, I spoke about the fact that the work that I do already is speaking about equity, equality, and inclusion of women in programming, whether it is health programming or whatever other kind of programming that you are doing. But then I went on to speak about a particular scenario, because they said here that, where is the question again? How do you exemplify these values in your professional and or personal life? What do these values mean to you? So I spoke about a situation where a member of the team, so we were providing services to women and girls. We're also providing services to men who were survivors of gender-based violence, and we were providing services to persons living with disabilities and the LGBTQI+ community. So I painted a scenario, really I described a scenario that had happened just a couple of months prior to that, where a team member who was part of the support hub, who had some religious affiliations, and because of that had reservations about speaking to or providing support to survivors who identify as lesbian, gay, bisexual, or any other form of sexual identity. So I described how the situation was handled, how we had a meeting with this person, and we were able to break down the fact that they should be able to separate their personal values and personal religious convictions from the work that they do. So the fact that you are providing support to somebody who identifies as this does not stop you from believing in whatever you believe in. But when you are at work and you are providing support, you are providing that support in a non-judgmental manner. It's not your job to preach to this person. It's not your job to start thinking you want to change this person. You are in no way entitled to referring to this person's gender identity or gender expression during the course of the work. So you will provide service to this person as you would to any other person. So we were able to have this conversation with this person, and we found a common ground of some sort where we said, if you are comfortable with doing this, we'll happily let you do it. But if you stand on the ground that, no, this is a sin, my religion forbids it, so never, if I get a call from a survivor who identifies as this, I will either not provide the service or I will tell them off. So it was a situation of, if you are going to uphold the values that we hold dear, because we are providing this service and we are not discriminating anybody, whether based on ethnic, religious, or sexual identity lines. We are not excluding everybody. So that was our way of upholding our diversity and inclusion principles in the organization. And then at the same time, showing this person that the fact that you are providing this kind of service to this group of people does not stop you from being a Christian, a Muslim, a traditional worshiper, does not affect your religious convictions, you are not committing a sin, you are providing service. And if you really do believe in whatever deity it is that you believe in, then you and the deity should have the conversation when you get home. You can pray for the person when you get home. You can go and tell God that, oh, that really is your business and your personal life. But when you are here, you have to provide this kind of service. So it was a short story, but I'm just painting the scenario for you to see that it was a situation that touched on diversity, touched on equity, and touched on inclusion of people of various groups, whether or not you believe that these persons are doing the right thing or not. As a fellow, you have to show primarily that you are not discriminating of any group, whether gender, ethnic, race, religion, sexual identity, whatever. You have to show it very clearly, because if for any reason there is a hint of you thinking, okay, because I'm heterosexual, this thing will not work for me. I do not think this way. I think all of these people are wrong. They're committing sin. It's not going to work. Cool. It's not going to work. So I'm going to be very honest. Nobody is forcing you to accept or believe in the fact that these people have the same rights as you. At the same time, don't lie and say you accept it. And then when they go to your social media, they go and find something on your Twitter from 3 or 4 months ago where you responded to someone and said, why? This is terrible. Why should these lesbians or these gay people be doing this? They dig. I tell you for a fact that they dig. They will dig as far as possible. In my interview, somebody asked me something from my business Instagram page. I barely even spoke about my business. I just chipped it in somewhere. So they will dig and bring out every possible thing that can be brought out. So exemplify the values that you uphold, but you have to show that no matter your convictions, you are open to accepting people of different opinions and different perspectives and people who may not believe in the same thing as you do. So it doesn't really matter whether or not you guys believe in the same thing. The fact that you are open and accepting of these people is what they want to see. But if you have done something else on your social media some time ago, I'll reserve my comments for that one. Either go and start, I don't know, cleaning up your mess, or show how much more accepting you are of diverse opinions and perspectives.
Yeah, thank you very much. Amina.
Okay, so I'm aware that we are behind time, so just to quickly respond to this. They said the value, so they started with mentioning to you that the program, like the Kedei said, is their value. And for America, that was value. It means this is what we live by. They are just using the word value, but technically this is what we live by, and we have to see that we also have something similar before we want to work with you. So diversity, equity, and inclusion. It could mean religion, it could mean race, it could even mean gender for some people. Because if you're a woman and you're just anti-men, maybe you had 3 or 4 heartbreaks and you are able to influence them getting business grant, you'll be like, if he's a man, he's not getting, you're not, that word is not equity. Mostly when people say equity, they think of women only. It's not equity. So my summary for this question will just be like, they want to see if you really favor. Because even if it is not your view, I'll give you a personal example that I gave for myself. I worked in the, we were able to influence getting, at that time, 10 scholarship slots in a very prestigious school in this Abuja. And if you hear school fees in this Abuja, it's a big deal. So I'm a Muslim by my faith. But then when we went to the community, they were Muslims, they were Christians, and there were certain criteria that we were going to use to select. Trust me, by the time we were able to finish identifying, only 2 of the Muslims were able to fit into those criteria. The 8 of them are Christians. And I am telling you, this is a really prestigious school. So I used that to actually demonstrate, firstly, equity and diversity. Even if I don't believe in it, this is my work. I am able to demonstrate that ethically, I didn't want to jeopardize anybody's opportunity because they have a different faith from me. I don't know if you understand that clearly. So you should be very clear, give very concise examples as to how you were able to demonstrate that. Firstly, what do they mean to you? That's the first question they're asking. So they want to see, if you start saying, I don't believe in this, or I don't believe, if you are not religiously tolerant, my dear, you don't fear God. Let me just say that to the face. Because religious tolerance is one of the signs that you actually know God created the person themselves. And just because they don't believe in him, he's not saying, oh, I die, or I don't earn. So you, who are you? Do you understand?
Yeah.
So firstly, you have to demonstrate that what those values mean to you. So for example, me, those values mean to me that however different my perspective are from a person, I must respect their views. I must peacefully coexist with them. I must hear them out, and I will never ever jeopardize their opportunities just because of those differences. Then how do you exemplify values? Please be very specific. Like I told you, specifically there was an opportunity and I was in my position, I was able to influence to a certain extent, but I demonstrated ethics and I demonstrated that diversity as a value. To me, I didn't want to jeopardize anybody's opportunity just because I believe they have different backgrounds or different perspectives than myself. Please be specific, and or personal life, even if it's your personal life. So maybe in your business, you have not come across this because of the kind of community that you find yourself in. But in your personal life, you have come across it before. For example, even if you just attended a colleague's wedding and maybe they're a different religion from you, but you were able to, calm down and cheer them on. This is a very small, like it might be an insignificant example, but I'm just telling you that even if it's from your personal life, think hard how you've been able to demonstrate that diversity, whether it's with your neighbors or with the groups that maybe you're even in an association or something. You've been able to demonstrate that, and they want to be specific. So don't hide anything. I mean, there is nothing to hide just because you're trying to tell people this is the communities that you work in. And they will tell you that only the people reviewing the application will get to see this information about you. So even if you are afraid of maybe bandits, sorry, I can be very, but that's the first example that came to my head. Even if you're afraid of something, don't fear, because they are not going to jeopardize your security in any way just because you're open. That being specific is they are just telling you, be open. We want to really see that you did this thing. But this is the only thing that I want to add to whatever Dr. K said. Yeah.
Thank you so very much for your answers, and thank you for taking time off your busy schedule to come answer these questions and help us in this application process. Just 2 yes or no questions I would like you to answer. The first one is, someone is asking, does it matter if your impact is within the low income class or the upper class? Does it matter? Dr.
Okay,
K? Dr. Amina, you can go ahead and answer.
This doctor that you're praying for me, it will come through very soon.
Amen.
So yeah, it depends on what you want. Like I said, just make sure it is positive. So for example, if you want to tell me that you help kids, the kind of work that I do, we've had a few people reach out to us that they cannot afford school fees. But because we are very thorough in our processes, we went to check their house in Karu. My dear, me and you, we don't enjoy that kind of comfort. Do you understand? So there is nothing really, if I help them, they could have been able to help themselves anyway. So, but if you're talking from a mental health angle, even if I go to an Ajebo school that ordinarily they do not have, they're not even mentally aware that there's something called social emotional learning. And as a result of me going there, the children can now meditate, they can now control their angers, they understand how to coexist and live with people. This is a very, very important impact in the world, because they have opportunities, and you bringing this kind of thing for them, you're already making them leaders just by rendering this service. So notice that the first kind of service you're rendering is like maybe paying school fees is for low income children. And then the second one is for high income. They might be at their boss, but this is something that they need.
Yeah.
And you were able to bring about that change. So it doesn't really matter as long as it is a positive transformation that you're bringing, especially if they cannot access it, if you have not brought it. Yes.
Wow, thank you very much. Dr. K, can two people from the same organization apply?
Why not? I mean, we had a husband and a wife. That one, the wife was in my institute. The husband was in, I can't remember. The husband was in another institute where I know there was another Nigerian in that institute, but both of them got it and nobody really cared whether.
Okay. Awesome.
It's your work that will speak for you.
Can attend, if married people can apply at the same time, I mean, people from the same organization can apply. Okay, so that brings us to the end of this amazing webinar. Thank you so very much, Amina and Dr. K. Guys, if this was impactful, please take a screenshot of your screen now, go to your IG page or your Twitter page, post the screenshot and say thank you to @Dr. K_ and @Mama SSOONG, Mama _SSOONG. I put their handles in the chat. Please copy it from there. Thank you so much, everyone. Again, have a fantastic afternoon and enjoy the rest of your week. Thank you so much, Dr. K.
Well done.
Thank you.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.